Kitco Mining's special coverage of the Deutsche Goldmesse is brought to you by Defiant Silver.
Last decade, Eric Roth's Extorre Gold Mines was acquired by Yamana Gold for $440 million. Eric was also behind the Hessjøgruva Project that's become a keystone for Sandstorm Gold royalties. What's Eric Roth up to now? Well, he heads up Capella Minerals. Eric, welcome to Kitco.
Thanks, Michael, and great to be here, and great to see you here at Deutsche Goldmesse. So it's a great, good event, good turnout, and I think great for Kai Hoffman too, and his team for organising. So yeah, so I guess, and thanks for the introduction. I guess, as you mentioned, we've had a couple of nice discoveries along the way. So Hessjøgruva has now gone through feasibility, now in the mine build. Before then, as you mentioned, Extorre Gold Mines, we had the Cerro Moro discovery, which has now been in production for a number of years for Yamana, and it's one of their lowest cash cost operations globally. So from an exploration geo and from a management perspective, it's always nice to see former discoveries go all the way into production. I think it's always a nice next step in the story. So what we're doing now, I guess, Michael, so we are focused now at Capella Minerals. So this is the latest iteration of the company, and basically what we are focused on is gold and copper assets, and we have a collection of, to my mind, a really nice portfolio of projects. We have 2 gold joint ventures in Canada, which we don't look after on a day-to-day basis, but it's nice to have those running in parallel. And I will mention that one of those projects, Savant Lake, which is in the hands of our partner Prospector Metals, will be going into drilling in Q3. So we have guys on the ground now, and the idea is that in Q3 we'll be drilling there too. So there should be some good news flow out of that project too. We are keeping very busy in Scandinavia. So our main focus, the projects that we manage on a day-to-day basis, are now in Scandinavia. So we have 3 copper projects, high-grade copper projects in Norway. And when I say copper, these are really copper, cobalt, and zinc projects. These are former mining districts, and I think people have forgotten that Norway had literally centuries of history in mining. I mean, I think people have just forgotten that it really does have a rich history of mining. So we've been very fortunate to acquire district-scale properties around former mining operations, and as they say in our business, the best place to find a mine is in the shadow of a headframe. So that's pretty well what we're doing in Norway. We also have a gold project in Sweden called Southern Gold Line, relatively early stage. There we have gold-bearing boulders on surface. We've been doing the exploration work, these systematic sweeps through the projects, through the properties, basically to find the source. And probably the one that's the most, aside from the Norwegian copper assets, the one that really intrigues me, if you like, is we have a project in Finland called Hessjøgruva Project. It's a project that we acquired last August. We're very fortunate to have been able to secure 200 square kilometres of very prospective ground along the Sirka Thrust, which is, for your listeners who are familiar with northern Finland, it's a belt where there's been a lot of big discoveries lately. So you have Rupert Resources with Hickory, you have Orion Resources very active in the belt, you have B2 Gold, Agnico Eagle is owner of the biggest gold mine in Europe there, which is called the Kitco Gold Mine. So really prospective piece of crust, and we've really pushed that forward through in terms of targeting with a view to getting these things into drilling, into discovery drilling as quickly as we can. So I think it's a really exciting portfolio. Big picture, gold and copper, as I mentioned, but the copper with cobalt and zinc, and great jurisdictions. I mean, we're in Canada and Scandinavia, so really great places to be operating.
There's a different mix of metals within those projects in Scandinavia as well, too. Something that I think what you mentioned was cobalt, for instance, is something that
Correct.
would have even been something that would have been even been considered back in the days, but now is something that people are kind of interested in, Eric.
Yeah, and it's a very valid point, because certainly the cobalt, people never analyze. Keep in mind too that these mines closed in the 1980s, and the copper mines closed for 2 reasons. First of all, copper prices basically tanked in the mid-80s, so you're talking about copper at $1,500 a ton, whereas now, of course, it's at $10,000 a ton. So there's been a quantum shift in metal prices. The second thing, of course, that happened in Norway was the discovery of oil. I mean, oil generated so much money for the country that people just left the mining industry in hibernation to move into the oil space. But therein lies the opportunity for us, because these projects have basically been dormant for the last 40 years. They were left in that state not because there was no potential for more discovery or because there were no resources left. It's simply that basically the whole mining industry just went into hibernation as oil was discovered. And and therein lies the opportunity for us. And an interesting story too about the copper deposits is that they've been in production for hundreds of years. They first started mining them for the copper. They didn't even take out zinc, which is the second important byproduct as well. Then relatively recently, they started recovering zinc as well. And of course, our work has shown that there's a lot of cobalt in these things as well too. So we've really got a nice mixture of metals that are associated with these massive sulfide deposits. And of course, too, they also have a little bit of gold and silver in them. So these are really multi-commodity deposits, and that's, I think, a very attractive thing to have exposure to. And the other thing, too, is that these deposits tend to be very high grade. If we look at the Løkken deposit, for example, we have a 200 square kilometre property around the old Løkken mine. Løkken was a big deposit. It was 4 kilometres long, it daylights in the east and was a kilometre deep at the deepest end, but they mined 24 million tonnes at 2.3% copper, 1.9% zinc, and some gold and silver credits too. So really fantastic size potential and grade. And of course, for us, what really drives us, or certainly what drives me personally, is focusing on high-grade deposits, because I think at the end of the day, that's exactly what we should be doing. We should be looking at things that, have the potential to generate really good cash flow, minimum capex to build, and, very quick paybacks. I mean, that's to me is what we should be doing as a smaller explorer, so as a junior explorer. So to me, they're a perfect fit commodity-wise, and they're a perfect fit deposit type size, if you like, given the size and the grade. So I think we're very fortunate to have such a good portfolio, within Capella. I think it's a real great asset.
Talk about also, there are some other companies, some other exploration companies that had some hits as well too. Rupert Resources is one that comes to name as well too. Who are your neighbors?
Yeah, so that's in Finland. So we have Rupert Resources, who've done very, very well, as you mentioned. So they declared a resource not too long ago, I guess about almost 4 million ounces. So that's an incredible new discovery there in that central Lapland greenstone belt. We now have Orion Resources as part of a JV with B2 Gold, who is exploring what is essentially looks to be an extension of Ikkari. Plus, you have all these other things going on in parallel. Lots of hits. S2 Resources had some hits. B2 Gold's had some good results. Agnico Eagle. I mean, there's lots of things going on in that part of the world in Finland. So we're very fortunate to have basically a 200 square kilometre block in what is very competitive and very tightly held belt, if you like. So we're very fortunate to have that. We've just completed a high-resolution magnetic survey over the property, so that's really good for us in terms of the targeting. And one thing I will mention about that, the Finnish project, is that we were very fortunate. One of the things that really attracted me to that project was the fact that Anglo-American historically, so this is going back 10, 15 years, had actually done some geochemical prospecting in that area, and they generated some very, very significant gold and copper anomalies. And so, so we're very fortunate to actually have a control over, existing targets. I mean, these are things that basically will not require much work to get them to drill stage, and then let's see what's there. So I think that's a great opportunity for the company.
You had, at the beginning of the year, an announcement around ESG, and it looks like it was something with Digby. Can you explain a bit more what you received from Jamie Strauss there? Yeah,
so the ESG step was a step that we voluntarily took. But having said that, one of the things in discussions with funds in Europe was that it was very clear that a lot of funds had a mandate to, I mean, in our case particularly, they love the portfolio. Everybody looks at it. They say, we love Scandinavia as a destination. We like the commodity mix. But we can only invest in you if you have an ESG accreditation now. So we took the decision to do the step. There's not many companies of our size that have taken that step. But I think it is something that's worthwhile to do, because as we go forward, this is something that everybody will have to eventually do. And my view is that, okay, some people might think it's a bit early for an exploration stage project, but I guess with these things, it's never really too early. And to be honest, those high standards of environmental, social, and governance, we operate in that fashion anyway. But it's a nice way to formalize it, if you like. So Jamie was very helpful, and I actually knew Jamie from a decade ago. He was actually a board member on Extorre Gold Mines, so I've known Jamie for quite a long time. So, but I think this new venture, this new ESG, is certainly something that's worthwhile for companies to look at. I think it's just, especially when you're operating in environmentally sensitive areas. I mean, I know these days everywhere is environmentally sensitive, but particularly Scandinavia. There's always eyeballs on the story, and people want to make sure you're doing the right thing. and obviously looking after the environment and all the social issues and the governance issues. So I think it was a good step for us. It really does lay the foundation for a solid future, I think.
And just to clarify, Jamie Strauss is the founder of Digby.
Yes.
Milestones over the next 12 months. Let's start with Scandinavia, Eric.
Yeah, so in terms of Scandinavia, so we'll have the second half of the year will be very busy for us. So we have basically the focus for us will be to push the Norwegian copper projects into drilling. So the plan, if I start with Løkken, which is one of the main projects, we will complete drill targeting there June, July, with a view to be drilling by October. We had 24 targets around the old Løkken mine. We've reduced that to 5, which we view as having the best potential for new discovery. So the focus will be on pushing those into production. The Kjøli project, which is in the northern part of the Roth district, we have drill permits in hand for up to 4,000 meters of drilling. We basically have completed all the targeting work. We did put an update out just recently on it. We did do a slight postponement. We had a reindeer migration through the project. So we said to the community support's obviously very, very important as part of this process. So we said, okay, we'll hold off until that's done, and then we'll look to get back and drill. So, and then the other project in the Roth district is Hessjøgruva. Now, this is a project, Michael, that we just announced in April. So we acquired 100% interest in a resource stage project. It has 12,000 meters of drilling on it. It's a non-43-101 compliant resource, but it is a start. It's 3 million tons at 2.2% copper. Good potential to grow. But more importantly, it does give that Kjøli district a center of gravity, because we have the Hessjøgruva project here, we have Kjøli here, and the plan is basically to make a mining district out of this with a central processing plant. So that's basically the strategy that we've employed there, and I think it really looks exciting as a district. And you know, again, coming back to Hessjøgruva was another one of these projects that was drilled out in the 70s on the anticipation it would be put into production, and then of course the malaise that hit the mining industry in Norway in the 80s, I mean, everything just got left in hibernation. It's a great opportunity for us. And I should also mention too that it was actually thanks to the community support. They saw that we were doing such a great job with Kjøli. They said, you guys must come and have a look at this project. And so really it was thanks to the support from the community. They said, well, we want to get this project up and running. It's got the credentials for a mine, but the second thing is we want the right people to do it. So it was really good that the community basically came to us and said, you guys should have a look at this. And we've had a lot of support at the community level, which is fantastic. So basically the plan for Hessjøgruva will be we'll obviously get the 43-101 compliant resource. That's the very first step. The plan is for the end of the year to have some of the initial mining studies done, so PEA type level, so scoping level type work. And then the idea next year would be basically to complete the feasibility type studies, get all the permits. And this is actually something that could be pushed into production very, very quickly, because it already is an existing resource. There's a lot of good infrastructure in the area, and that's another thing I should also mention here too. In this part of Norway, because there is a history of mining, there's a lot of mining infrastructure still remaining in this area, and there's also a lot of general infrastructure. You've got great highways, trains, mobile coverage everywhere. I mean, it's obviously first world, first class infrastructure. So that makes a huge difference when you're building projects. And the other thing I should also mention too is there's a vast supply of hydroelectric power, which is very, very cheap, and of course it's environmentally friendly. So there's a lot of pluses for pushing these projects forward. So that's on the Norwegian side. The Finnish side, basically the plan will be to continue, just wrap up this. As I mentioned, we did do this high resolution geophysical survey. Let's finish the targeting over the summer here. We get to August, September, October, when it starts to freeze up again. And that's when we'll come back in. We'll do some more, probably some more bottom of till drilling. But the plan basically is, for example, on that Kjøli target, which is the Anglo-American target I mentioned, let's just get in there as quickly as we can and drill. I mean, there's no point over sciencing it. Let's get in there and have a look and see what it is, right? So, Sweden will continue to push on, and it'll be this reconnaissance type work. And I will put an update out in the coming weeks to the market. But we have a lot going on in Scandinavia here over the next, this next half of the year.
Eric, thanks for sharing this story with Kitco.
Thanks, Michael. Appreciate it, and enjoy the show too. So.
He's Eric Roth. He is CEO of Capella Minerals. My name is Michael McRae, and you're watching Kitco Mining here at Deutsche Goldmesse in Frankfurt, Germany.
Kitco Mining's special coverage of the Deutsche Goldmesse is brought to you by Defiant Silver.